Well, man, I have to say I got really lucky because I started in 1999 and I didn't have to learn the pitfalls of the free traffic myth. Specifically about the affiliates and joint venture stuff that you're always overhyped with, because it really didn't exist back then, at least nobody that I knew. There was no real internet marketing quote unquote community back then. There were only a few people publishing anything, and a lot of it was experiential, and I had to advertise. And my first ad, I remember this, I was selling a product for $47, and it went straight to a sales letter, and I bought my first ad on goto.com, which of course became, now I've already forgotten, I think it became Overture, which became Yahoo, which became Bing, but it was one of the first pay-per-click search engines, and it worked. And that immediately hooked me because I spent, I think, $5 to get a $47 sale. And I was very excited about that, which was both good and bad. The good was I was able to turn advertising into profit. The bad was that it took me years before I really recognized that the first sale is the hardest to make, and what I'd really gotten was a customer for $5. And of course nowadays, because we have funnels and because we know more and because we practice relationship marketing and really bond with our buyers and customers, that initial purchase usually is worth infinitely more than the sum that they paid up front. And I'm much happier to buy that customer for a small fraction of the initial value as opposed to paying some other party like an affiliate person or a joint venture partner that I would depend on half of my gross sales forever. It just doesn't make sense to me. Mistakes made? Sure, yeah. So, all right, I think it's fairly safe to say with a pretty good degree of accuracy that I've got customers in every country and continent on the planet. Maybe there's some very obscure place, in Eastern Europe or somewhere where I don't have a customer. And I've also got coaching and consulting clients that I speak with regularly and that I help. And the mistake is universal, and it's prevalent, and it's everywhere, which is on one hand a frustration, and on the other hand, something worth getting very, very excited about because it signals massive opportunity for folks who realize it and work around it. And here it is. Most people will do two critically devastating things to their business. Number one is that they falsely believe that advertising is an expense and that it's better to get free advertising. So here's the thing. Advertising should never, ever be an expense. Advertising should always be looked at as an investment, and you should never invest any significant amount of money into advertising until you have proven with a very small amount of money that for every dollar you put in, you'll get at least that dollar back, and preferably $2, $3, $4. So now the question becomes, okay, well that's sort of obvious, but how do you do that? And that leads us to really the big significant mistake that I can almost say everybody is doing, and that is they will send traffic to an incomplete or non-existent system. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, and I think I'll do it with a metaphor. Imagine going to the job interview without taking a shower or putting on decent clothes, right? Well, when you drive a traffic to your website, that's kind of like you going to that interview with that prospective customer. And if you don't have a complete sales funnel built, it's like showing up for that job interview with 2 nights parties worth of clothes on, and no shower and your hair sticking up everywhere and you're reeking of vodka Red Bull. Depending on the job, it's probably not going to go over very well. So the way to turn traffic into money there are really lots of ways, but the simplest way is to make sure that you have a complete system, a predictable system that can systematically and predictably turn X percentage of visitors into initial sales, and then X percentage of those initial sales into escalating sales, and then X percentage of those escalating sales into repeat lifetime customers. And if you do that, it's over. You get all the traffic you want, because traffic is like sand, really. the traffic itself, just like sand, is worthless, right? I mean, you go to the beach and you get a bunch of sand and you just give it to someone and you say, you want to buy the sand? And they say no, because it's just sand. Just like the traffic itself means nothing. It's what you make of it, right? So if we can take that sand and we can heat it and we can mold it, we can have something nice made out of glass, or we can build castles out of that because we make bricks out of the sand. It's the same way. You pour that raw material of traffic into a good system that's designed to turn it into profits consistently and predictably, then you've got an asset that can feed you for years and years and years, if not your lifetime. But yeah, the biggest mistake is not building that system, driving the traffic first to an incomplete system. It's like planting seeds into a parking lot. They're just not really going to take, you know. Is it hard to get traffic? No, it's not, if you are on the up and up. So within the internet marketing community, which in large part often is actually the business opportunity space. So if you are trying to send traffic to a page that's not compliant, that makes these outrageous hype claims, that violates the clearly stated terms and services of advertising platforms, then yeah, you're gonna have a hard time. But if you follow the rules, then no, dude, it's not hard. I mean, okay, we got some of the largest companies in new media. You have Google and you have Facebook, and those are public companies, and the purpose of those companies is to deliver revenue and profits to their shareholders. Well, how do they do that? They sell advertising. So is someone going to logically say that it is difficult to buy advertising from some of the largest companies in the world whose sole function is to sell advertising? No, it's not. Seconds from now, well, seconds might be an exaggeration. I would bet you that if you wanted to send traffic to, say, a blog or something, not that that would be a good idea, but let's say you have a blog post that's genuinely beneficial to your reader, and you wanted to send traffic to it, within the next 10 minutes, you could create an ad and be set up on a network to send traffic. You could publish that same stuff in a CPA network. Now, obviously, you'd have to have an offer attached to it for those publishers to want to do it, but no, it's not hard to get traffic at all. And of course, people ignore the existence of other media. You know, everyone's focused on joint ventures and email. They think that's the only thing that exists. And you have that tiny little microscopic camp of people who sell things on the internet. And then you have the rest of the world that just sort of laughs at them, right? There's never the question of trying to get traffic. It's, can you convert the traffic? That's the real art. Getting traffic is having a credit card. Do you have a credit card? Is there money on it? Can you type the little order form and fill that out on Facebook or Google or Bing or whatever? Then yeah, you can buy traffic. So the biggest tip for buying traffic, there's no pressure there, the biggest. Okay, there's two. All right. First of all, you have to understand not all traffic is created equal. My teacher, Dan Kennedy, taught me message to market match. Right message in front of the right market at the right time with the right media, right? So segment your audience. Just if you have something like health to sell, don't just go out and advertise under Get Healthy, right? Who is it for? Is it for women? Is it for women over 40? Is it for women over 40 who are 30 pounds overweight and want to lose that weight? Whatever it is, dial it in perfectly to that market. Your traffic is going to be less expensive, and that's a great way to make like a $500 ad spend on traffic feel like $5,000, because you're laser targeting just the right person. But that is not nearly enough. You also need to understand human psychological nature and build everything to go with that human psychological nature. And this is where all of your competitors are going to do the polar opposite. So this is very good. I think it's logical for us to assume that the vast majority of people who come to your website for the first time aren't going to buy your stuff, right? Like, if you got the majority of people who came to your website for the very first time to buy your stuff, then we would be building solid gold statues of you in the direct response marketing hall of fame, wherever that may be, right? Because it's unheard of. It just doesn't really happen, ever. So instead of trying to rack our brains and torture ourselves and hammer visitors over the head with false scarcity and these countdown timers that don't tie into anything and ever-increasing exaggerations and claims, why don't we understand their basic human nature and build everything to go along with that and guide their decision over time? Right now is the first time really in the history of humanity where we have the ability to communicate with so many people with really zero expense. It doesn't cost anything to send an email. And if it does, if you like say, okay, well, that's not true. I have a Weber or something for $30, and yeah, okay, then maybe it'll cost you like 0.000001 cent averaged over the lifetime to send an email to that client, right? So knowing that, build a system that you send traffic to that is going to first capture interest by immediately providing value to that visitor for free. And the way you do that is you solve an immediate problem for that person for free with some information, tutorials, whatever it may be, and then build a relationship with that customer through an automated sequence over time. It can be quick time, by the way, it doesn't have to be years, right? And have that relationship build trust and desire, which leads to a sale, which, and this is the big one, leads to increasing sales, whether that's a lifetime of continued business or that is ascension where they buy more and more expensive products from you within a short amount of time. Either one of those works. So it's really send the right traffic, not just any traffic, but properly targeted traffic, which is cheaper, to a properly built funnel that provides value first, builds a relationship first, and then asks for the money only after that value transaction has been established where you're giving to receive. If you do that and you stick with it, it's going to be pretty hard for you to mess it up.